Yo, what's up? Welcome to another build guide. So in this video we're gonna take a look at the Deadeye explosive arrow character with a low budget, and you can also do this as a league starter. I actually haven't spent more than 10 exile, maybe let's say 15 exiled with the level gems, those kind of stuff. So it's gonna be a cheap build and can easily be a league starter. The build doesn't use any boss drop, unique, those kind of stuff. I only use one thread of hope, which is a drop from Sirus, obviously, which you can easily buy in a week, even in a new league. But I will also share a non-thread of hope talent tree maybe, so they are going to be in the path of building. So we are going to check everything slowly. I'm going to explain how I make this build work, because this is right now something that no one plays. Explosive arrow is already one of the least played bow skills in the game, and right now only 10 people played this in Scourge League, and like 9 of them are actually, no offense, but shit builds. They don't know what they are doing. And I also prepared another explosive arrow build in 3.15, I believe. Lots of people played that. So hopefully this is also gonna be good. So maybe you will consider playing this in 3.17, which is hopefully in early February, because they just postponed it. So before watching some clips, again note that this is a low budget build, so do not expect crazy DPS, but I actually killed like most of the bosses. Atlas level, obviously, Awakener level 8, Maven, Sirus, Conquerors, Guardians, Shaper, what else? Formed, I believe. Obviously, we are not going for Feared, because this build is not that crazy, but for the budget, I was actually amazed. I made this build, obviously, myself, because this build doesn't exist. So we're gonna check everything later on, but one final thing before I let you watch the clips. These days, because the next league 3.17 is coming in a month, I am trying to do these kind of builds that doesn't exist actually, and maybe they can also be league starter, or at least low budget, let's say maybe 10 exile to start. So this was actually a request from one of my subscribers in my Discord. So make sure you are in my Discord, maybe give me some build ideas. I will try to do these kind of builds. I have 3 more builds coming. They're actually right now ready. I'm not sure when I'm gonna also upload those, but I have total of 4 builds already ready to launch, and no one plays those builds. They're all hidden builds. Alright, so stay tuned for those. Don't forget to join my Discord, give me some ideas, subscribe, or maybe even support me in my Patreon if you are feeling generous. So I will see you after a couple of clips, and I will explain everything. Alright, I'm back. Now I'm gonna explain everything slowly, including all the gear that I'm using, the ascendancy. Later on we are gonna also check path of building, so make sure you download path of building if you're a new player, maybe you don't know what that is. So that's a simply program that you need to install in your computer. The link is always in the description. That is how you actually track, check the other people's guides, builds, let's say. So we are also gonna check that later on. I'm gonna show the gems in that. So let's start slowly. So first of all, this build is obviously can be a league starter, but in Path of Exile, actually archer builds are not super, newbie friendly. So I never recommend these for super new, fresh players. So maybe you should start with a trap mine, maybe a minion build, maybe a totem build. But if you are up for a challenge, or if you already are an experienced player, you can obviously start with this, because both builds require some good movement, some knowledge of mechanics, especially boss mechanics, so you can actually dodge, avoid most of the damage. This is a Deadeye character. Normally Deadeye characters are super squishy, but I actually managed to put in lots of defenses. So let's just start explaining those first, after that rest of the stuff. So first of all, obviously the character has kept resistances and also some chaos resist. Normally most builds have -60. I right now have -15, still minus, but it actually lets me avoid one-shots and I don't even die to poison, those kind of stuff. So it is enough. The character has 100% spell suppression. You can actually easily achieve that. We are gonna check that later on in Path of Building. So the character actually takes half damage from all spells, which makes it super tanky. I have almost 20k evasion, which says something like 69 lemao percentage evade chance. So the character actually, let's say, dodges most of the attacks. So we are going to be a lot of tank, we are going to be tankier against attacks, let's say. The character is obviously super fast, so you will manually dodge most of the stuff anyways. And finally, if I am not missing anything else, the character also has Gale Force. So let's just explain the ascendancies first, because that is where Gale Force is. And that also provides less damage taken. So first of all, Deadeye ascendancy points. Wind Ward, less damage taken per Gale Force. So what is Gale Force? Gathering Winds, another notable that we are using on Deadeye. Gain 1 Gale Force when you use a skill. Effect of Tailwind, per Gale Force, you and nearby allies have Tailwind. So Tailwind basically gives you action speed, which means attack speed, movement speed, those kind of speed modifiers. So the character is gonna be faster, and once you start attacking, you will also stack those Gale Forces. It can stack up to 10 times. You can see that on the upper corner of your screen. It is like a green tornado effect. So if you have 10 stacks, that means that you are gonna get 30% less damage taken from the next hit. And after that, obviously, you will lose all the stacks. So because it is a less damage taken, it doesn't say reduced, it says less damage taken. It means that it is a multiplier and it is a huge damage reduction. So actually my character doesn't have much armor because this is an evasion build. So let's give an example. In Drox maps, let's say Drox influence maps, sometimes there's a flag, elite flag that's just slams you, just drops on you, alright? Those flags. They actually hit a couple of thousand actually. And right now my character without much armor takes like maybe 1000 damage from those flags. Because this 30% less damage taken is actually ridiculously powerful. And most Deadeye builds do not even use this actually. Because I wanted to make the build tanky. This is obviously not against physical damage. This is against all damage types. So considering we also have 100% spell suppress chance, meaning that we actually take half damage from all spells. If you also have less damage taken, Gale Force stacks ready, you actually take almost no damage from most spell hits. So let's check this Maven right now. You already watched the clip. She just shoots this ball, as you can see. Normally it hits a couple of thousand and also ignites you, which I forgot to explain. And you can see that it didn't even hit that much and I didn't even get ignite. So next thing is actually the character is also ailment immune. So lots of surprises in this build, considering the price. So this is simply a very fun and powerful build to play, and no one knows this build. You are lucky that you are watching this video, so you can actually play this build next league. So the character is also ailment immune. We can just check the rest while explaining the gear, because we have some suppression and also ailment avoidance on some of my items, but most of the ailment avoidance is actually on the talent tree. So we'll just check those later on, obviously. Next, ascendancy point, occupying force. So this was a request. The build was actually So let's just explain like this. So I asked for build ideas and someone said make something with occupying force. I actually tried occupying force the first time they added it to the game and I didn't like it that much. I had an ice shot build actually. So I also wanted to try it in this build. It helps but not crazy actually. So Mirage Archers are not attached to you, so Mirage Archer is a support that you need to use on your main setup, which is Explosive Arrow obviously, plus 2 maximum number of summoned Mirage Archers, so that means that you can summon 3 Mirage Archers. But they actually stand, you know, on the ground, they don't follow you. Normally it is a support gem that actually follows you, you know, you just spawn that Mirage Archer on your head, let's say, but right now they just spawn and just stand there. They actually have a green circle around them, meaning that you cannot actually spawn another one in that green circle because it says cannot summon Mirage Archers while near your Mirage Archers. So you need to actually position yourself good and try to summon 3 Mirage Archers and then stand still and also start shooting yourself. So that is how I tested the build. Maybe you can skip occupying force, alright. Maybe do not use Mirage Archer, maybe, alright. It depends on you because the build was a request, that's why I prepared it like this. It obviously works, you watched all the boss clips. It is fine obviously. So yeah, that's pretty much it with the occupying force, so feel free to skip Mirage Archer and use something else as a support gem if you want. But while fighting bosses you need to position yourself and try to summon a couple of those so they can actually deal some damage. And finally, endless munitions. Skills fire 2 additional projectiles, so which is obviously good for arrow builds. So let's start explaining explosive arrow so you can understand better how this build works later on the items. So explosive arrow is a bow skill obviously, which is a fire skill that actually has its own base damage. So meaning that gem level is super important in this build. But obviously because this is a low budget build, I haven't invested in gem level, so my explosive arrow was a regular 20 level explosive arrow. So if you have a higher budget, obviously try to increase that by maybe using another amulet, if that is better or not. Maybe a better bow that can also maybe be better. So level actually helps a lot, explosive arrow level, let's say. So if you have something like maybe 25 level of explosive arrow compared to a 20 level, I'm just checking in head of building right now, I actually gained like 55% more damage, which is huge. So maybe try getting a gem level later on if you want to use different sets of gear, those kind of stuff. So having a higher explosive arrow obviously helps because the skill already has a base fire damage. So how the skill works, that you basically obviously shoot arrows, but you actually shoot like it says fuses. So you need to actually wait like 1 second, and after that the fuse actually gets, you know, detonated. You can stick up to 20 fuses to a single enemy, but with the diversion quality, which is ridiculously cheap because no one plays explosive arrow. So in a fresh league you can simply buy that after a week probably, but it is not needed to start playing the build obviously. So a diversion quality also lets you stack additional 4 arrows in an enemy, so making total of 24 fuses. Alright, but it provides it also it says less skill effect duration, which is not good at early game, let's say, with lower budget, because you need good attack speed and maybe duration from the talent tree, which I invested in. So you can actually stick those 24 arrows. If your character cannot stick 24 arrows because of those reasons, maybe a lower attack speed, don't have enough duration, you haven't maybe leveled your character, so maybe you are missing duration nodes on the talent tree, do not use explosive arrow as diversion. Simply use the regular one. You need to check your attack speed and see if you can manage to pull those 24 stacks in that duration. So with divergent, my explosive arrow actually lasts, let me just check, 0.9 seconds. So under a second actually, 0.9 second. With a regular explosive arrow, it is actually 1.7 seconds. Huge duration obviously, but it is not good while mapping because it means that you need to wait 1.7 seconds on each pack. None of the monsters are gonna die before that duration because explosive arrow needs to explode by, you know, spending that duration. So that's why in the end diversion is very important. Make sure you get that. Until you get that, you can simply use less duration support while mapping instead of a red support gem, which is inspiration for me. So you can actually detonate those stacks faster while mapping. So try to do that maybe. But in the end, having a divergent one obviously helps you a lot, because you will have like -9 seconds on each fuse, meaning faster detonation. So while mapping you won't have any problems. And it is simply about the skill itself. So you need to stick at least 20 fuses for maximum damage, because each fuse also obviously adds more damage, because that is how the skill works. Now you know how the skill works, what divergent does, skill effect duration, what skill effect duration does to the build. So you understood most of the parts. We already take a look at the Ranger ascendancy. So let's start with the items now. So I will explain you what you should buy, or if anything else comes to my mind, maybe alternative items, I will also mention those. Everything is obviously in path of building. The items are also in the alternative items that I haven't actually used. They are also in path of building. So maybe if I think something else, I will also add those. If you have anything in mind, just message me in my Discord, so I can actually add those items in path of building, so other players can also see those. So first of all, weapon. Most bow builds use very expensive bows, because that is how to play most bow builds, unfortunately. But this build uses Coil Rain, 1 chaos, dirt chip bow actually, which is a 5-level bow. You can even drop this while leveling at first day, and people just drop this and put it like maybe 2 chaos, 3 chaos the first hour into the new league, let's say. So you can easily buy this for like 1 chaos after day 1 maybe. Maybe do not start playing at first day, just chill on Friday, don't play the build, don't play the game. Maybe start playing at the second day, or maybe later on. So you can actually buy also Coil Rain while leveling. Maybe just start playing with this build. You can actually again do this build as a league starter if you know what you are doing. So you can do that, alright? So this is your bow, end game bow. You are gonna play with this bow all the time, because this bow has 3 attacks per second, which is crazy. None of the bows in the game can achieve that. You cannot even push above 2 attacks per second, I believe, on bows. So using any other bow than this, you will have half the attack speed. The build will obviously feel slow, and you won't be able to also stick those fuses faster by using other bows. But in the end, if you want to invest further, this is obviously a low budget build that can do most of the stuff in the game. If you want to maybe invest in further, maybe try using some ridiculously expensive stupid bows later on, and check if that works, because gem level helps a lot in this build. So actually rare bows can have +1 gems, +2 bow gems from the bench, rather than bow gems. You can also put +2 support gems, because you cannot put both at the same time. You can get a bow with +1 gems +2 bow gems, or +1 gems and crafted support gems, +2 support gems. You cannot have bow gems and support gems at the same time. The game doesn't let you do that. So one of those bows, it also may be penetration to fire or elemental, whatever, as a prefix. Or the suffixes, obviously attack speed, crit multiplier, maybe double damage. So that kind of rare bow maybe can outperform this bow in the end. But those bows are super expensive. So I haven't tried that. You can maybe do that later on if you really enjoy the build. But I have obviously did everything with Coil Rain, which is ridiculously powerful for this build, because we need lots of attack speed. And the build also doesn't use any, doesn't need, let's say, any flat damage, because the skill itself already has damage inside it. So gem level obviously helps a lot. Again, I'm telling you, that's why it is enough to get going with this bow, and your character will feel super fast. It is so much fun to play with this build. Quiver, this is gonna be a little expensive. This is probably the most expensive stuff that I'm using. I bought this for like 2 or maybe 3 Exile. So this was obviously not bad. You can just start with maybe a lower budget version, because bow attacks, fire, and additional arrow is a very important modifier that most bow builds use. So consider starting with a random Quiver. After that, get or buy one of these. They can +1 arrow can be on Shaper and Warlord influences. So try to maybe craft one of those later on. For the base type, for the Quivers, spike point Quivers are good for crit strike chance. Or maybe something else that gives DPS. Some of the bases gives, I believe, fire damage to attacks, but not sure if it is very good or not. Avoid, obviously, pierce, penetrating Quivers at all costs. That's what I am always telling while explaining bow builds, because that simply messes your DPS. So do not get penetration from anywhere, because that will simply mess your DPS, alright? Penetration is a no, alright, for most bow skills. That is simply absurd, actually. They need to just maybe remove that from the game, but I'm not sure. When did the last time they did something for bow builds, alright? GGG doesn't care much about bow builds, unfortunately. And that's pretty much it. In the end, a bow attacks fire additional arrow quiver. Other good stats: crit strike multiplier, elemental damage with attacks. That is actually very good, which my quiver actually misses. So this quiver was not insane, actually. It was like, again, 2 exalt of something. Life, obviously, maybe not a crafted life, so you can actually push more life. And that is simply going to be your quiver in the end. There are also going to be maybe some unique options in the path of building. Maybe you can also use one of those early on. Body armor, Iris Ire. So why we are using this? First of all, the build is Trinity, as the thumbnail says. So Trinity means that you actually need to attack with a couple of different elements. So first of all, explosive arrow is fire skill. So that's why I needed to add some cold or maybe lightning damage from somewhere else. That's why I picked this body armor, because it has huge cold damage to attacks, meaning that you can also proc your Trinity. So you can actually get 50 resonance. That is the circle, you know, colored circle on the left, top left of your screen. So you can actually get good DPS from that support gem. This chest also has huge evasion. So evasion is a key to survivability for this build. And also suppress spell damage. Again, it is needed to push that 100% suppress spell, so you don't actually get hit that much from spells. So cheap, easy to acquire even at a league start body armor. If you have a higher budget, maybe consider using a rare influenced body armor, but you need to check if your Trinity works. So maybe you need to add more cold or lightning damage to somewhere else, maybe. So make sure that your Trinity works if you want to use another body armor. I haven't tested that. That's why I'm not gonna do much comment for that. Gloves, Pain Seeker, 1 Chaos Gloves. No one uses this. So why we are using this? Crit strikes do not inherently apply non-damage ailments. So what does this mean? This means that if you crit, you just, you know, apply chill, freeze, ignite, shock, whatever you are dealing. But with this gloves equipped, you don't actually do that. So you need to actually have some percentage chance to apply ignite, chill, whatever, shock, alright, that kind of stuff. So you can actually apply those ailments. So why are we using this? Inflict non-damage ailments as though dealing something % more damage. It can go up to 200%, I believe, so try to get a good rolled one, because it is obviously 1 chaos item. I paid like 3 chaos for a good rolled one. That was it. So it means that actually you can inflict higher percentage ailments easier, let's say. So you are gonna say, what about ignite or maybe chill? So why are we using this? So that makes no sense. That's why you also need the interrogation unique small cluster jewel. I'm not sure how much this is gonna be at a new league. It was like 50 chaos, or maybe somewhere between 1 exalt at most in Scourge League, because most builds do not even use this. Most people don't know how to play with this jewel. So not sure how much it's gonna be next league. So I'm not sure, alright. If someone is to blame, maybe that's gonna be me, if this is gonna be expensive, alright. So you need this actually to start playing with Pain Seekers. So until you buy this jewel, do not use Pain Seekers, because that makes no sense. So why are we using interrogation? So this is a cluster jewel you need to buy. This is the only cluster jewel that we are using. I'm not using any large or mediums, because this is a league start cheap build. I avoided all clusters. And this is the only thing you need to use. Cannot ignite, chill, freeze, or shock. Crit strikes, inflict, scorch, brittle, and sap. So this says that actually you can apply scorch, brittle, sap rather than, you know, ignite, chill, freeze, or shock. This is already a fire build, so meaning that you normally ignite. We also have some cold damage and lightning damage, but we won't deal much, you know, chill, apply much chill and shock normally, because we don't deal much of those. And the main damage is fire. So fire damage obviously applies ignite, which is pretty much useless if you are not an ignite build. So that's why we want to convert them to scorch, brittle, sap, because they are actually better for DPS and defense. So how this works? Combining with the Pain Seeker, obviously the build already deals lots of fire damage because Explosive Arrow is a fire skill, so you can easily apply maximum amount, which is minus 30 to Scorch effect. So that means that 30% penetration easily. So huge DPS. Cold damage comes from High Res Ire, again, as I already explained a couple of minutes ago. So you can easily apply Brittle, which applies percentage crit strike chance. This build easily achieves 100% crit. I mostly saw 10, 10.5, maybe 11% Brittle. Brittle actually can go up to 15%, but because I haven't invested in much cold damage, that's why I only could apply 10, 11, sometimes I saw 12% Brittles. So that's why I typed 10 in my path of building, and I already had 100% crit strike chance with that. So Brittle gives you crit strike chance, lets you achieve maximum crit strike chance easily. And finally, lightning damage applies sap, which actually reduces the damage the enemies deal, I believe, so it is good for defense. And simply, we converted some useless ailments to better ones. So you are gonna say shock obviously provides DPS and we cannot apply that right now. No, you are wrong. We already also apply shock and chill because we are using Skitter bots. Because this jewel says you cannot ignite chill whatever. This doesn't apply for Skitter bots actually, which is funny. So the build also uses Skitter bots as a buff. Those bots apply chill and shock. Because also there is more. Pain Seeker says inflict non-damage ailments as though dealing something more damage. That also works for Skitter bots. What the fuck? That means that's why Skitter bots actually apply 25% shock. Normally it is 17%. So simply broken, guys. A hidden combination that most people do not even know. Maybe most of you learned this right now. So this is a simply broken combination. The build applies 5 different ailments. That's why the next piece is gonna be Yoke of Suffering. Enemies take 5% increased damage taken, which actually means more damage, by the way. That is actually meaning that for each type of ailment you have inflicted on them. I will just remove this amulet from my path of building and see how much percentage damage I'm losing. I just lost, if I can find that, 31% damage from this amulet alone, which is ridiculous. And this amulet was 5 chaos in Scourge League. Not sure again how much it is gonna be. If it is gonna be if it is gonna be expensive in 3.17, again I am probably gonna be the one to blame, because most people do not even use this amulet right now, as far as I know. So simply broken. We are combining Pain Seeker plus Interrogation plus Yoke of Suffering plus Skitter bots to achieve huge DPS. This also says that your elemental damage can shock, so you can easily apply Brittle sap, I believe, because it is gonna convert it to step because of interrogation. So that is how this synergy works. I hope you understood. I hope I was clear enough. So maybe watch the same part again. And that is simply how to use these 3 items together. If you don't have a Yoke of Suffering yet, if you don't have interrogation yet, just skip the others also. Make sure you use these 3 items at the same time. Otherwise, that won't make any sense. Next piece, rings. My rings were not crazy. I bought one of them for 10 chaos. The price tag is also on that in path of building. I forgot to delete that, so I will just leave it like that because I bought it for 10 chaos. Put non-channel skills have -7, and that was it on my ruby ring. The other ring was a 2-stone ring that I used on one of my impale builds. That's why the ring actually has physical damage to attacks, which does nothing for this build. So this ring is not actually final for this build, you know. This was actually a budget ring for this build because I needed some decent intelligence and accuracy. That's why I decided to stick to this. So normally you need to also maybe get fire damage or percentage elemental damage to attacks, which is actually super important, provides good DPS. So on your rings in the end, try to get elemental damage with attacks or maybe percentage fire damage, those kind of elemental damage. You'll use opal rings maybe because they provide elemental damage on the implicit. You can even use the elemental catalyst, whatever the name is, and also boost those values. So because this is an attack build, if your hit chance is not capped, make sure you put accuracy on one of your rings. That's what I did, and it was enough to cap because the talent tree already has lots of accuracy. So it is very easy to cap accuracy actually. But you might need some intelligence. That's why also don't forget to put it on one of your rings. or maybe boots. It is simple as that. Other stats are obviously life and resistances. And another important thing, this is super important if you want to play without any issues on the mana side, you know, let's say. Open prefix, so you can actually craft non-channel skills have minus cost on both of your rings. Plus using replica conqueror's efficiency, which is also available at a league start after a week maybe. These three total, you know, just solves the mana problem. Because right now my character attacks at least 6 times in a second. If you don't invest in any mana cost reduction, the skill has something like 35 mana cost, I believe. So let's just say 35 times 6 something. It means that like maybe 200 mana cost per second. No leech in the game can actually cover that. It is simply ridiculous because so much mana cost in a second. So even if you have mana leech, maybe invest on mana leech per second, whatever, those kind of stuff, it doesn't work, guys. You cannot sustain that mana. So you have to invest in mana cost reduction in the end. Before that, maybe also use an enduring mana flask at a league start to cover that issue, you know. So get help from a mana flask maybe. But you can easily get rings with open prefixes and put non-channel skills have mana cost in the first week of a new league. So, but maybe you need to wait for that replica conqueror's efficiency for maybe 1 week or so, I'm not sure. But it is a common drop, so you can easily buy that. I always buy it after a week in a new league. And it is normal, most of times like 50 chaos, even at a league start. And normally it's like 10 chaos, 20 chaos maybe, after a week, after 2 weeks maybe. So that is how to solve the mana problem. Plus we are using inspiration support, which also lowers the mana cost. And that is how to also fix that mana issue. Belt. In the end, Stygian vise is good, but obviously at league start maybe use a leather belt or maybe heavy belt if you need any strength. Those kind of other belt types. But the Stygian vise in the end is good because it has abyss socket, which you can put an abyss shovel that maybe gives life, crit multiplier, attack speed, or even resistances or intelligence, those kind of stuff. For the belt itself, you want obviously life, resistances, elemental damage with attacks. That's it. Nothing crazy going on. This was very cheap actually. And that's pretty much it. So final items. Asenat Chant. I believe I forgot to explain this. So this is like a best in slot for maybe like 90% of the bow builds out there. So let's see if this item will survive the next patch. Because I always search for this item in every patch note. Because I think this is simply overpowered. I'm not sure. I think like that, you know. Maybe they will nerf it later on, maybe not. Let's see. This is actually not a new item and still lives up to this day. So Asenat Chant, trigger a socketed spell when you attack with a bow with 0.3 second cooldown. Also provides attack speed, movement speed, which is good for bow builds obviously. So we want to use Wave of Conviction because that applies fire exposure. This is a fire build, so that's gonna be good DPS. Assassin Markers. That is my curse choice. I don't recommend what's that sniper mark on this build because I believe that doesn't work. You might try it, but I'm not certain right now because I haven't tried. But normally I believe you might miss those fuses, but not really sure right now because split comes first. I believe probably it's not a good idea. Maybe try that, but I believe assassin mark is better. That is how I tested it. That is our curse choice. And Hydrosphere, because this also applies cold and lightning exposure. So by also using Wave of Conviction, you can also apply fire exposure. So lots of DPS in the end. So this is a damage setup that just triggers on its own. And the final gem is going to be Inspiration on this helmet if you still have mana cost on these skills. So we want to make the mana cost 0 or maybe close to 0, let's say, on these gems. Because Asenat Chant just procs them very fast thanks to that 0.3 second cooldown. You will just shit those skills, alright? Pardon my language, but yeah, that is what it is gonna happen. So that's why you need to actually lower the mana cost because you will also need that for Explosive Arrow. So make sure you on your rings get that mana cost reduction as I explained earlier. Get that Replica Conqueror's efficiency. Make sure you don't have any mana problem. After that, maybe start using Asenat Chant. This is also something like a 1 exalt, maybe 1.5 exalt item because this is simply a popular item for bow builds. So by the time, make sure you fix those jewelries, get those mana cost reductions. After that, buy this helmet, so you don't encounter any mana problems at all, because this is a huge quality of life improvement, this helmet, alright. For the enchant, I picked Explosive Arrow Attack Speed because I just wanted more DPS. Maybe get something else if you have anything in your mind. So I will leave that up to you, but this is what I used. Finally, boots. I bought this for 10 chaos. Just type for chance to evade elemental ailments. It's gonna be on shaper basis. I don't know if there is something else. You just want to keep that ailment avoidance. If you don't use something like this, you cannot achieve what's that, ailment immunity. But in the end, having something like this that has good percentage actually helps you get 100% ailment avoidance. So the character is actually immune to all ailments, as I explained at the start of the guide probably. So other stats are obviously movement speed, life. My boost doesn't even have any resistances. I also managed to get some suppression. That is how I kept my suppress chance to 100%. For a lower budget, you can obviously use Adzir's step at a league start. That is what you should start with. But later on, you want to be ailment immune, so try to get something like this. If you couldn't find something that also has suppressed spell damage, I believe you can craft suppress on some pieces, so check the crafting bench. Or get more suppress on talent tree if you want. So make sure you have also 100% suppress in the end, so you take half damage from all spells actually, which makes you super tanky. And that's it about all the items. It was a little detailed because there were lots of synergy going on. Hopefully you understood all of them. If you missed anything, make sure you watch the part that I was explaining the ailments, Pain Seeker, Yoke of Suffering, and Interrogation combination. That is super important. Make sure you fully understand that, and that mana cost reduction part, because they are super important for this build. Finally, I'm gonna take a look at the talent tree, the path of building, real quick. Maybe show you a couple of things. I don't want to make this video any longer because I already explained all the super important stuff. So first of all, if I wanted to clickbait you, this is what I would put on the thumbnail. So you know I am not doing clickbaits on this channel. Alright. So because I could easily put this. So right now path of building cannot calculate Mirage Archer. So that actually says total Mirage DPS 50 million. What the fuck is this? But that is simply not what is going on. I believe each of my 20 stacks deals maybe like 1 million if this is right. It can be right, you know, I'm dealing something like this because I don't just two-shot a boss. I was like, I'm dealing something like this. Bam, 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 dead. Something like that. So maybe 1 million is accurate. So this might be my damage. I'm not sure. This is obviously wrong completely. 50 million. What is this? Let's check the talent tree. So you can easily buy a Thread of Hope in a week, even at a fresh league. Before that, obviously don't use this. Maybe get these bow notes yourself by going like this. Alright, you can do something like this. I highly suggest you to just skip this part, maybe, because it's gonna be so much waste of points. You can also get this like this. Also get these chance to ignite whatever, so you can actually apply those brittles, those kind of stuff easier. If you have maybe any problems applying those ailments, also get this like this. Alright, 10% chance. So this can also help you, maybe just check it, but I haven't gotten that and I could easily apply all the ailments that I want. So yeah, in the end, this Thread of Hope location is actually busted because it lets you get lots of good stuff for this kind of elemental bow builds. So make sure you buy this as soon as possible. Large ring. Obviously having lower resist helps you skip resistances on items a little bit more. But maybe you can get away with a -15 or whatever. So it can be also cheaper. So a good Thread of Hope location. Line I Fall. This is not expensive these days. Normally, maybe like 1 or 2 years ago, this was like very expensive at league starts. But these days, I believe most people do not play bow builds at league start because, again, as I explained at the start of the video, if you are a super new player, I actually do not recommend you to play this build. Bow build requires you to have good knowledge of the game, good knowledge of boss mechanics. You need to know what you are doing in those bosses, and you need to know how to roll your maps. You need to have a good knowledge of the game. Otherwise, you might die a lot, maybe. Normally, this character is not squishy compared to a regular Deadeye build. Again, I am ailment immune, have some, good resistances. I don't have minus 60 chaos resist, which helps you avoid getting one-shotted easily, obviously. This chaos resist is actually enough. You don't need to cap your chaos resist on most builds. Good evasion, Gale Force stacks, which provides less damage taken, 100% spell suppress chance. You don't have most of these on most Deadeye builds. So this is not actually a super squishy Deadeye build. So I was very, very amazed with the result. Actually, again, I am explaining the same stuff right now, but yeah, that is how that is. So moving on again, line I fall, melee and melee weapon type modifiers in radius are transformed to bow modifiers. So right now this jewel can actually see dagger notables here and also claw notables here. That of building cannot show you that, but in game you will see. Well, first of all, this says, I'm just reading the first blue sentence. Blow attacks deal 25% increased damage with hits and ailments. In the game, you will actually see that this says bow attacks deal 25%, whatever. It will also say 10% increased attack speed with bows. So if you are checking this in game, in your own game, you will know that these actually work. You can also see that I will just lose DPS. You can see that Path of Building obviously calculates these, but it cannot actually convert the sentences, alright? But in the game, you can just confirm that works. For this mastery, I am obviously getting Leech, so it was very easy to get Leech like this. If you don't have this jewel yet, get Leech like this. You want to get this Clever Thief, attack damage, Leech as life, and mana. But once you buy this, make sure you get this Claw node here, and also get Claw Mastery, life, and mana, Leech. So there are also Dagger notables here, which provides huge crit, and also Culling Strike, which is super nice to kill bosses faster. This is how you can get lots of chaos resist. You can also invest in this and get even more resist like this if you want. Element resist and chaos resist. So this is also a good mastery. Moving on, a cluster for interrogation, obviously. You can also get this, by the way, to just get whatever you want. This also provides evasion, by the way. Let's see how much evasion it provides. Not bad, actually. You can also go like this, because this provides a little bit projectile damage. I don't know, you won't miss that much. If you want more evasion, just get this jewel slot instead, or also get this jewel slot. Buy more jewels if you want, skip something else. Thread of Hope already explained. If your suppress chance is not kept, that is how I did. I picked this because this provides huge suppress chance. So this wheel here is very good. I actually prevent 53%, by the way, not half. So even more than 50% damage reduction, because this also adds another 3%. So 53% mitigation for spells, which is ridiculous. Attack speed accuracy. By the way, you can use Intuitive Leap on this location until you buy a Thread of Hope if it is cheap, so that's why it is here. This lets you connect anything without even connecting to the tree. So if I put Intuitive Leap here, I can just get Heartseeker just with 1 point. Normally you need to spend 3 points, as you can see, but if you put Intuitive Leap here, it will just cost you 1 point, because you can just get whatever you want in the radius. So just get Herbalism, Equity, Survivalist, Heartseeker, maybe use Intuitive Leap, alright, if it's cheap, if you want that. There is actually a Grace, Mastery, Reservation, whatever here, which helps you with the mana cost. So you may want to get an Evasion Mastery from somewhere else if you do that, because that is normally where I get this. There is actually a Evasion Mastery also here for only like 2 points, this, you know, like this, bam and bam, just get that Grace here. You can also do that. This actually 2 points also provides huge evasion, and also this has suppress spell, so another source to get suppress spell. So this is actually a good notable for defense, so consider that. We also convert dexterity bonus, let's say, to what's this, suppress, so another suppress, but with this we actually lose lots of evasion. So if you can keep your suppress spell chance from somewhere else, maybe don't get Mage Bane and have a higher evasion. But this is how I kept it, as you can see, 100%. This is where I get skill effect duration. So my Mirage archers actually last longer. Also, I have more time to stick 20 fuses, because it also increases the duration of explosive arrow. So this is good. I played like this. Feel free to skip this and test the build if you want. There is also Mirage archer duration in this bow mastery. This is also super important. You want to have longer duration on those Mirage archers if you are playing with Mirage Archer, as I did with Occupying Force. This is how to get rest of the ailment avoidance. Avoid ailment, avoid shock, whatever. +1 res, avoid ailment. Corrupt Blood immunity lets you skip a expensive jewel actually. So this is why this is very good. Rest of the ailment avoid is also here, 4%, 4%, 8%. So in the end, calculation, I believe this, yeah. Ailment defenses, no, not this. Yeah, this one. Avoidance, ignite, chill, freeze, shock, everything is 100%. As you can see, the character is immune to all regular ailments. And that's it. And I'm not sure if I should explain any more gems. I already explained the trigger setup in your helmet. For mobility, obviously dash, because that is good. Later on, get Amulet. These are cheap because this provides travel distance, which actually got me killed in Maven fight. You already watched that. That is why I died. Obviously, I used dash to the wrong location, but because of this travel distance, I could go all the way to the laser. So this sometimes can get you killed, get yourself killed. You can also dash into Sirus storms. That is also not something that we want. But I really like this, you know, Amulet quality. This one also provides +1 cooldown. You can actually use dash 3 times. So good quality, alternate quality. For the buff skitter bots, I already explained this in the gear section. So just go and check timestamps if you missed that. Grace for evasion, obviously. You can maybe use an owl uprising amulet later on if you have the budget. I'm not sure if it is better than Yoke of Suffering, but you can maybe reserve something else. I'm not sure. Combine, you know, at top of these actually, maybe a damage aura. Let's see if anger provides anything good. Let's check. Not bad. We can also use a Watcher's Eye thanks to this maybe. So I'm not sure, maybe you should use an Owl's Uprising and test if it is better with a Watcher's Eye also. Because without the Watcher's Eye, I'm not sure if an Anger with Owl Uprising alone is actually good or not. So let's just also put this in the path of building. So you can actually consider maybe using this. I'm not sure, but again, I haven't tested this. So I'll just leave it like this here. Just do your own investigation. Just check path of building, see if it is better. But obviously, you need to also use a Watcher's Eye. Because normally I'm not using a Watcher's Eye, by the way, because this is a cheap build. Also maybe put anger something. Probably crit multiplier or fire penetration. Let's put like this for now. Let's put a good roll one here. So consider maybe checking these and see if they are better or not. But we haven't used those obviously. This is the ballista setup, this is the regular setup. Just put it wherever you want. You can put your setup to body armor, put ballista to weapon. Alright, this doesn't matter, weapon 1 or body armor. Just put wherever you want. And that's it. I'm not going to explain the flasks, just check them. Dying Sun is obviously good for additional arrows. So you can stick more fuses faster. It also helps you map faster. The character, I believe, shoots like 10 arrows while mapping, which is absurd. You might need to wear sunglasses. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe. As I explained earlier at the very beginning, I will also prepare, share more these kind of not known low budget builds actually that can also do most of the content. I am still taking build advice, so make sure you are in my Discord, give me some advice. And that's pretty much it. If you become a Patreon member, I cannot thank you more than enough, you know. So if you are feeling generous, consider supporting me from my Patreon. Thanks for watching. I will see you next time. Bye bye.